Hello. This demonstration looks at Microsoft Excel 2016. I will activate Excel with the Excel icon on the taskbar at the end of the screen. This starts off Microsoft Excel and we activate a blank workbook. So in this demonstration, we will look at the Excel desktop and explain the uses of Excel. The first computerized spreadsheet application was known as Lotus 123. It was called 123 because it had three distinct built-in functions. The first was to work with numbers and to perform calculations. The advantage being that the calculations became automatic, and it meant that users could update their figures and the calculations would recalculate following that. The second feature was to be able to take numeric data and chart that data to represent it graphically. People looking at financial reports found it easier to look at it in a graphical context rather than looking at sheets of numbers. And the third function was to be able to take lists of data and sort the data alphabetically, numerically, and so on. The common uses of spreadsheets applications today are to organize data, to calculate in reports, for example, tax reports, payroll reports, revenue, sales reports, statistical reports, and so on. Again, to produce charts to graphically represent that data, to log items of stock or sales or anything that a person works with, producing a list of data. So, spreadsheets. It simulates a paper worksheet. It consists of rows. So we can see here rows in the worksheet which are numbered. On the screen here we see rows 1 to 29. It also has columns working across the screen, denoted by the letters. In Excel 2016, you could have just over 1 million rows in a worksheet, and you could have just over 16,000 columns in a worksheet. However, with the reports that people normally produce, you wouldn't need that working area. It is important to remember, however, that if you move across the screen, which can happen in the start by mistake, so I'm going to click down here at the end of the screen, and it looks as if nothing has happened, but in fact I'm in column X. And that was simply because I clicked at the end of the screen on the working area there. Now that can happen people starting off with the worksheet, so it's a good idea to just keep track of your column letters and row numbers. Because likewise, if I click on the wrong part of the screen, where the rows are concerned, I'm now looking at row 30, although it looks as if nothing had happened. Okay, so we have our menu at the top of the screen here, which is similar to all of the Microsoft applications. So you will be familiar with that if you've worked with Microsoft Word or PowerPoint. We have our ribbons. Okay, so the ribbons run across the screen here with the features available. So clipboard, font, alignment, and so on. Okay. Here we have the name box. And what that does is, the first piece of information it gives us is the active cell. So it tells us that the activated cell is column A, row 1. If I select a cell further along the worksheet, you can now see it's telling me that the cell that's active is column H, row 9. This is denoted as well by a shading feature on the column letter and the row number to give you easy access. You will become more familiar with that, but cell references are used quite a lot in the setup of your worksheets. The next area here is called the formula bar. And as we input data into the spreadsheet, that data not only appears in the cell itself, but it appears in the formula bar. When you're working with formulas later, it'll become a handy area to check your formulas or make corrections. In this case, I can just press the Enter button. So the arrow here to enter. You can, however, just press the Enter button on the keyboard. Now I'm just going to undo that heading there a moment, and I'll do that again, but this time I will press the Enter key on the keyboard, and you'll see that brings me automatically down to the next cell for input. That would be quicker when you're setting up your data. Okay, so that's the formula bar, which we will see later on in our working with spreadsheets. Okay, so we have workbook 1. At the moment we have sheet 1. If I click on the arrow here, this will allow me to input a new worksheet into my workbook. Now you switch between the worksheets by just clicking on the worksheet tabs. These worksheet tabs can be renamed if needs be for easier access.